Every automatic car owner has heard these warnings. Never shift while moving. Don't use engine braking. Don't rest your hand on the shifter. But here's the problem. Some of this advice can save you thousands. Some of it does absolutely nothing, and some of it is completely misunderstood. So I tested the most common automatic car mistakes to see what actually matters and what's just internet fear. Hi, I'm Evan. Let's break this down. You've been told resting your hand on the shifter wears out your transmission. The warning is that constant pressure on the lever damages internal parts over time. And here's why that's not quite right. This advice actually comes from manual transmission cars. In a manual, pressure on the stick can wear the shift fork and synchronizer rings, but your automatic works differently. Most modern automatics use cables or electronic shifters, not direct mechanical linkages. The slight weight of your hand won't cause meaningful wear. Bottom line, this one's a myth. Mechanically, you're fine. The real reason to keep both hands on the wheel isn't about the transmission, it's about being ready to react if something happens. Now, this next one is way more controversial. Some drivers swear it's safer, others say it's dangerous. This isn't about your transmission. It's about what happens when panic hits. The advice is that driving with 2 feet creates safety risks and wears out your brakes. Mechanically, the wear happens slowly. Resting your left foot on the brake causes heat, but the bigger issue is safety. I'm not saying you'll cause an accident the first time you use 2 feet, but habits repeat. Using 2 feet trains your brain to press both pedals at once. In a panic, you might press brake and accelerator together. Your car gets confused, you don't stop as fast. Automatic cars are designed for 1 foot driving. It builds safer muscle memory. When danger appears, your foot moves to the brake without hesitation. If I had to score it, mechanically it's a 4. But for safety, this one's a 9. Okay, now we move from harmless habits to mistakes that can actually destroy your transmission. Do this, and here's what happens. Inside your transmission, there is a small metal piece called the parking pawl. It jams between gears to lock them and keep your car from rolling. It is designed as a safety mechanism, not a brake. If you shift while rolling, you force that pin against spinning teeth. It can chip or break. Then your car won't stay parked. Repair means taking the transmission apart. Here's the takeaway. Never shift into park while the car is still moving. On the damage scale, it's a 9. It's a small habit that avoids costly repairs. If you think that's bad, this next mistake is even worse. Yes, it breaks things. Here's why. The advice is to always come to a complete stop before switching between drive and reverse. And I get why this is tempting when you are in a hurry, but your transmission has internal parts that spin when you drive. They have inertia, meaning they want to keep moving. Think of it like grabbing a spinning ceiling fan blade and trying to throw it the other way. Something's going to give. If you shift while rolling, you force those parts to change direction instantly. That creates mechanical shock. It wears down clutch packs and bands. Over time, this leads to slipping or failure. A repair can cost over $1,500. Your brakes are designed to stop the car. They are cheaper to replace. Let the brakes do the stopping. Let the transmission do the shifting. Verdict, this one is legit. And on the damage risk, I'm putting this at a 9. It's not something you want to ignore. One more thing. Some newer cars have safety features that won't let you shift while moving. That's great, but not every car has it. So stop first, then shift. But this next mistake is far worse, and some drivers do this intentionally to make their car faster, but the damage is brutal. The claim is revving in neutral and dropping into drive gives you a fast start. Here's what mechanics see in the shop. When you rev in neutral, the engine spins fast, but the transmission parts inside are sitting still. When you drop it into drive, the clutch packs slam together instantly. They have to absorb all that energy at once. This creates massive slip and heat. Your transmission fluid breaks down fast. Internal parts wear out much quicker than normal. It is not like a manual car where you control the clutch. Here the transmission takes the hit. In the shop, we see this cause premature failures. Verdict, legit. Risk level, 9. It's a fast way to wear out your transmission. Just don't do it. All right, let's slow things down. Not every warning online is that serious. Let's settle this once. Do you need to shift to neutral at stoplights, or is staying in drive actually harmful? This advice, idling in drive, wears out your transmission. Others say shifting to neutral rests it or saves fuel. Reality. Modern automatics are designed to sit in drive while you're stopped. The torque converter handles the disconnect between engine and wheels. That's normal operation. Shifting to neutral won't save meaningful fuel. It won't rest your transmission, and it won't prevent wear. The only real downside? You lose the ability to react quickly if you need to move. If you're waiting for several minutes, shifting to park is fine. Not because drive is damaging, but because it reduces heat buildup and removes creep load. But for short stops, keep it simple. The real concern is safety. If your foot slips, the car can move. So the bottom line here, this whole debate is a myth. Mechanically, it's a 1. Your car is built for this. Save your worry for the stuff that actually matters. Now this one is controversial. People say turning your engine on and off too often wears it out faster. But here's the truth. Every time you start your engine, components like the starter motor and battery work harder. Parts that cycle more often do wear faster. But modern cars with auto start-stop systems are built to handle this. For older cars without that tech, constantly cycling the engine can add up. Frequent restarts can strain the ignition system or drain the battery. The fuel savings from shutting off for a 30-second stop? Minimal. So the verdict here, it's exaggerated. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 3. If you're waiting a minute or two, just leave it running. If you're stopped longer, shutting off is fine. Let the situation guide you, not a rigid rule. Now this one gets a lot of drivers confused because context actually matters here. You've been told engine braking ruins your transmission. Here's what's actually happening. The advice is that downshifting to stop harms your automatic transmission. Reality. Engine braking means using a lower gear to slow down instead of the brake pedal. For steep downhill grades, this is smart. It helps prevent brake fade. But for routine stops, like at a light, it's not the right tool. Your transmission is built to shift smoothly, not to handle constant deceleration. Forcing it into lower gears adds stress to clutch packs and bands. Here's the practical side. A brake job costs around $400 to $500. A transmission repair? That's easily $1,500 or more. Here's the takeaway. Context matters. Mechanically, it's a 5, but only if you're misusing it. Save engine braking for steep descents. For everyday stops, let your brakes do the job they're designed for. Now let's talk about mistakes that don't just affect your car. They affect your safety too. This isn't about wear and tear. It's about what happens when you can't stop in time. Here's the issue. Tailgating and late braking harms your car and puts you at risk. Here's what's actually happening. Mechanically, the wear is moderate. Tailgating means you're braking harder and more often. That wears down brake pads faster and adds stress to your transmission from constant acceleration-deceleration cycles. But the safety side, that's critical. When you follow too closely, you cut your reaction time in half. If the car ahead stops suddenly, you might not have enough space to stop. Your automatic car can mask how fast you're going, making it easy to misjudge distance. Late braking forces your system to do more work in less time. Real talk, the mechanical risk is a 6, but for safety, this one's a 10. The wear in your car is real, but the accident risk is what actually matters. Leave space. Brake early. That's the habit that protects everything. And this next situation can destroy your engine in seconds. Could cost you thousands. Here's what drivers worry about. Driving through deep water can ruin your automatic transmission. Your transmission has vents to release pressure. They work fine in normal conditions, but when you drive through deep water, those vents can let water seep inside. When water mixes with transmission fluid, it turns into a milky mess. That mixture breaks down the clutch packs inside your transmission. Once that happens, your transmission can start slipping, and soon it may fail completely. The scary part? This damage can happen in hours, not years. On the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 9. If you're not driving a rugged off-roader, avoid deep water. A transmission replacement costs thousands. Staying on dry ground costs nothing. Another situation where drivers lose control, especially when stuck. The fear is that spinning your wheels when stuck damages your transmission. When you're stuck in snow or mud, it's tempting to just floor the gas. But spinning your wheels excessively puts serious strain on your transmission and torque converter. Here's what happens. When the wheels spin but the car doesn't move, all that energy turns into heat. Transmission fluid isn't designed to handle that kind of sustained heat. It breaks down faster and your clutch packs start to wear. One short spin won't ruin your car, but keep at it and you're asking for overheating, slipping, or worse. So this one is legit, and on the importance scale, I'm putting this at an 8. If you're stuck, be gentle. Try rocking the car, add traction, or get a push. Protecting your transmission now saves you from a costly repair later. Now here's where things get confusing. Mechanics don't even fully agree on this one. You've probably heard this advice. Never rev a cold engine. The idea here, revving hard right after starting damages your engine and transmission. When your engine is cold, the oil is thicker. It hasn't fully circulated to all the moving parts yet. If you rev hard right away, those parts work with less lubrication than they need. That doesn't mean you need to idle for 10 minutes. Modern engines are ready to drive after about 30 seconds to a minute. The key is to drive gently until everything warms up. Same goes for your transmission fluid. It needs time to reach the right temperature for smooth shifting. So the verdict here? It's exaggerated. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 5. You don't need to baby your car, but giving it a minute to wake up protects your engine and transmission over the long run. And this belief is especially common in cold weather. You've probably heard this advice. Let your car warm up before driving in cold weather. The thinking goes, warming up your transmission in cold weather protects it from damage. Your engine warms up fast. Modern engines don't need much idle time, but your transmission is different. It doesn't generate heat like the engine does. It relies on fluid friction inside the torque converter to warm up, and that takes longer. When transmission fluid is cold, it's thick. It doesn't flow or shift smoothly. You might notice a delayed engagement when you shift into drive or reverse. So the verdict here, it's legit, but only in very cold weather. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 5. In cold weather, let the car idle for 30 seconds to a minute after starting, then drive gently for the first few minutes. It's a small habit that helps protect a very expensive part of your car. This next habit feels smart, but it can actually reduce your control. The rule you've heard, stay in gear when coasting downhill. In reality, when you coast in neutral, you lose engine braking. That's the natural resistance your engine provides. Without it, your brakes do all the work. On a long downhill, that can lead to brake fade. The bigger issue is control. In neutral, you can't accelerate to avoid a hazard. Motor and automatics cut fuel when coasting in gear anyway, so you're not saving gas. Shifting back into drive while moving can add small wear to clutch packs, so the risk is more about control and situational safety. It isn't a 10 out of 10, it's more like a 6 out of 10. It depends on the road, your speed, and traffic, but the loss of control is real. Now, the next one. People say you should never shut off your engine right after a hard drive. The worry? Turning off immediately traps heat and damages internal parts. Here's my 2 cents. When you push your car hard, your engine and transmission build up heat. Your oil and coolant carry that heat away while you drive. But when you shut the engine off, that flow stops. The heat gets trapped inside. This is called hot soak. Over time, that extra heat can speed up wear on seals and bearings. If your car has a turbocharger, this matters more. Turbos spin fast and get very hot. Cutting oil flow too soon can shorten their life. So this one is legit. And on the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 6. For normal driving, don't stress it, but after a hard drive, let the engine idle for 30 seconds. It's a small habit that protects expensive parts. Now let's talk about the mistake that kills more transmissions than anything else. That is, you should never skip transmission fluid changes. The message, neglecting ATF maintenance leads to slipping, overheating, and failure. Here is what I believe. Your transmission fluid does more than just lubricate. It cools internal parts and acts as a hydraulic fluid to make shifts happen. When it breaks down, those jobs don't get done as well. Lifetime fluid is often marketing speak. Most manufacturers actually recommend changing it every 30,000 to 60,000 miles. When fluid gets old, it turns dark and loses its ability to protect. That can lead to slipping gears, rough shifts, or overheating. So this one is legit. And on the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 9. If you plan to keep your car long term, staying ahead of fluid maintenance is one of the simplest ways to protect a very expensive part. Small effort, big payoff. The next one. Most people get this completely wrong. You've probably heard this advice. Follow your maintenance schedule. The belief, skipping oil changes, filters, or brake pads harms your car over time. Here's what I think about this belief. Your automatic car can go longer between services than older cars. Sometimes 7,500 miles or more between oil changes. But just because it can, doesn't mean it should. When you skip oil changes, sludge builds up. That sludge blocks oil flow, which means parts don't get lubricated. Over time, that leads to wear, poor performance, and eventually, engine failure. Same goes for filters, spark plugs, tires, and brake pads. So the verdict here, it's legit. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 10. Small neglects add up. Follow your owner's manual, not the dealership's upsell. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters when it matters. Ignore this, and small problems turn into very expensive repairs. The assumption, dashboard lights are just suggestions, not urgent warnings. People say you can ignore yellow warning lights and just deal with them later. Here is the truth. Your dashboard lights aren't just decorations. They're early warnings that something needs attention. Red lights mean stop what you're doing. Serious issues like low oil pressure, overheating, or brake system failure. Amber or yellow lights are less urgent but still matter. Things like tire pressure, check engine, or service reminders won't always leave you stranded today, but ignoring them can turn a small fix into a big repair. On the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 10. The light is your car asking for help. Answering early protects your safety, your wallet, and the life of your car. Now back to habits many drivers do without even thinking. The advice is you should never floor the gas from a stop in an automatic. I'll be honest, I get the urge to floor it sometimes. That quick burst of speed feels good, but does it actually hurt your automatic car? The short answer, it depends. When you press the gas hard, your engine sends a spike of power to the torque converter. That part uses fluid to connect engine to transmission. Under normal driving, that transfer is smooth, but during a hard launch, the converter handles a lot of slip. Slip creates heat. Heat breaks down transmission fluid. Degraded fluid doesn't protect clutch packs and bands as well. Over time, that leads to wear. One hard launch won't ruin your car, but make it a habit, and you're shortening the life of expensive parts. A transmission repair, my take, drive smoothly most of the time. Save the hard acceleration for when you actually need it, like merging or passing. So the verdict here, it's mostly exaggerated. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this one a 7. And this next one is extremely common, especially when you're trying to save money. The idea, low fuel damages your fuel pump and engine. This is why they say you should never run your gas tank below a quarter. In reality, your fuel pump sits inside the gas tank. It relies on the fuel itself for cooling and lubrication. When you run below a quarter tank, the pump isn't fully submerged. That means it runs hotter and wears out faster. Gas tanks also collect sediment over time. When fuel is low, the pump draws from the bottom, where that debris settles. That can clog your fuel filter or damage injectors. This one is legit. And on the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 6. Refill before you hit a quarter tank. It's a small habit that protects a part that costs hundreds to replace. Even how you park your car can cause problems over time. You've probably heard this advice. Always use your handbrake. The claim is that parking without the handbrake damages your transmission over time. When you shift into park, a small metal piece called the parking pawl engages inside your transmission. It's basically a pin that locks the gears, but that pawl is a safety mechanism, not a brake. It's not designed to hold your car's full weight long term, especially on an incline. When you skip the handbrake, all that weight rests on the pawl. Over time, that constant pressure can wear it down. So this one is legit. And on the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 7. A brake job is a few $100s. A transmission repair is sky high. Let your brakes do the holding. Now this next one is a bit controversial. Here is it. You must always shift to park before turning off the engine. Here's the reality. Most vehicles today won't let you turn off the engine unless it's in park. That's a built-in safety feature. But if your car does let you shut it off while in gear, the car could roll away. If you forget the parking brake and the transmission isn't locked, the vehicle can move. On a slope, that happens fast. The mechanical damage risk isn't huge, but the safety risk is real. So the verdict here? It's exaggerated mechanically, but the safety side is legit. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 5. Make it a habit. Foot on the brake, shift to park, engage the parking brake, then turn off. It takes 2 seconds. Now this next mistake is rare, but when it happens, the damage is massive. The advice is that towing with drive wheels down won't hurt your transmission. So can you actually tow an automatic in neutral with no problem? Here's the truth. Even when your automatic is in neutral, many internal parts stay engaged. When the engine is off, the transmission fluid doesn't circulate. That means no lubrication, no cooling. If you tow with the drive wheels on the ground, those spinning parts generate heat without any way to shed it. Over a few miles, that can overheat and destroy your transmission. On the importance scale, I'm putting this at a 10. If you need to tow your automatic, use a flatbed trailer or a tow dolly. It's a small extra step that protects a very expensive part of your car. You've probably heard this next advice. Never force the shifter. The claim is that missing a gear or rushing shifts damages your automatic transmission. Reality. Modern automatics have safety features that prevent you from selecting a gear that could damage the transmission. If you try to shift too fast or skip a step, the system usually just won't let it happen. That said, forcing the shifter or rushing through selections can still add wear to the shift linkage over time. So the verdict here, it's mostly a myth. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 2. Don't stress about missing a gear. Just let the shifter move naturally. If it doesn't want to go where you're pushing, don't force it. But the next mistake is really worse. People say adding performance mods to your automatic car will destroy the transmission. The truth is, small cosmetic changes, like wheels or a body kit, won't hurt your automatic. But performance mods that increase engine power can create problems if the transmission isn't tuned to handle it. Your automatic's shift points and clutch pressure are calibrated for stock power. Add more horsepower without adjusting those settings, and you're asking the transmission to handle stress it wasn't built for. That can lead to slipping, overheating, or premature wear. This one is legit, but only if you're making big power changes. On the importance scale, I'd put this at a 6. If you want more performance, make sure the transmission gets attention too. Small upgrades are fine. Big changes need big planning. But this next one is different, and because your car is literally telling you when something's wrong and what mechanics see before a transmission fails. Here's the mistake. Ignoring small changes in how your car shifts. Your transmission fluid doesn't just wear out silently. It gives you signs. If you notice a delayed shift into drive or reverse, that's a warning. so are erratic shifts, slipping between gears, or a rough engagement that feels like a clunk. You can check the fluid on many cars with the engine running and warmed up. It should be bright red or pink. If it's dark, dirty, or smells burnt, it's time for a change. So, risk level, 8 out of 10. These symptoms are your car asking for help. Catching them early can save you from a costly repair. And finally, a small habit most people don't even realize they're doing. You've probably heard this advice: stop pumping when the nozzle clicks. The claim is that overfilling your gas tank can cause expensive problems. So, when you pump past the first click, you're forcing liquid fuel into a system designed for vapors only. That's the EVAP system. It captures fuel vapors so they don't escape into the air. If liquid gas gets in there, it can damage the charcoal canister. That part helps manage emissions and fuel pressure. When it fails, you might see a check engine light, rough idling, or trouble starting. So this advice is actually legit. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this a 4. The fix is simple. Stop pumping when the nozzle clicks off. It's a small habit that protects a part that costs a few hundred to replace. So as you can see, some automatic car advice really matters, and some is just internet fear. Now you know which is which. So next time you see automatic car advice online, remember, not everything you hear actually matters. If you want, I can test more car myths next. Please subscribe to my channel that really helps me as a small YouTuber.